So now we'll look a little bit at backup and recovery. First, we'll look at creating a backup, and there's three main styles of backups. You have hot backups, which are live running backups of the Liferay instance with an up-to-date database. You also have warm backups, which are backups where the servers are mostly configured, but the database needs to be imported. And then you have cold backups, where all the data may be current, but all the servers need to be set up, configured, and the data imported. There's a bunch of components to backup too, and these library components will need to be backed up on a regular basis. So this includes source code, database, default data, configuration files, apps and modules, search indices, and file repository. So let's look at backing up source code. Any DXP extensions or applications written should be stored in a repository, and this is just best practice. So this might include GitHub, Subversion, or CVS. Back up the repository regularly and make sure it's part of any Liferay Dxp project's backup plan. Let's look at backing up Liferay Dxp's file system. So you can focus on backing up the Liferay home folder and the application server folder. And the Liferay home folder contains the data folder for your database, your OSGI folder, and this contains all your modules and configs, and then the logs folder. And as we talked in the previous section, this is important for development and debugging. If the document library is configured to store files to a location other than the default, you might want to back up that location as well. So let's get into talking about backing up Liferay Dxp's database. And the database is a central repository for all of Dxp's information. So this, by definition, makes it the most important component to back up. There's two options for a database backup, and you can use live backup, and this depends on the database used, but the database must allow it to have a live backup. And then you can export the database into a file and back up that file, and you can import the file into the database to restore the backup state. Now there's also Elasticsearch that we have to back up, and there's three basic steps to this. You have to configure a repository, you'll make a snapshot of the Elasticsearch cluster, and then you'll restore from the snapshot. To restore a backup, the following should be restored: the application server, the Liferay home folder, and we talked about the contents of that, the locations of file system-based media repositories, the database, and the search index. So now let's check. There's three main styles for backing up Liferay Dxp: hot backups, warm backups, and cold backups. And the database is the most important component to back up. By backing up and restoring the search index, there is no need to re-index after recovering a backup.